You tried to withdraw cash this morning. The ATM said temporarily unavailable. You drove to another bank. Same message. You went inside. The teller apologized. Systems down nationwide. Should be back up soon. It's been 8 hours. Your credit cards don't work. Your phone's payment apps won't connect. The gas station is cash only, and you've got $40 in your wallet. The grocery store is limiting purchases. Your neighbor just knocked on your door asking if you have food. This isn't a financial crisis. This is World War III, and it doesn't need tanks rolling down Main Street. It needs one thing: your complete dependence on systems you don't control. The attack isn't coming. It already happened. 3 months ago, when adversaries penetrated infrastructure networks and planted code that's activating right now. No bullets, no bombs, just cascading failures designed to look like technical problems. And you've got 48 hours before things get violent. Every prepper I know is preparing for the wrong war. They've got gas masks rated for nerve agents, Geiger counters calibrated for fallout, potassium iodide tablets stocked for radiation exposure, bug-out bags packed for Red Dawn scenarios. They think World War III looks like 1945 or 1962 or every Cold War movie ever made. Wrong. The war you're imagining ended in 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed. Modern warfare doesn't announce itself with ICBM launches and mushroom clouds. It doesn't require declarations or invasion forces. That model is obsolete, not because it's too destructive, because it's too expensive and too obvious. Here's what the movies show you. Missiles streaking across the sky. Nuclear detonations vaporizing cities. Tank columns rolling through suburbs. It's dramatic. It's terrifying. And it's completely wrong. Here's what modern military doctrine actually teaches. Gray zone conflict. No formal declarations, no front lines, no uniforms. You attack infrastructure, not armies. You exploit dependencies, not territories. You win before the enemy realizes they're fighting. And it's already happening. Colonial Pipeline, May 2021. Ransomware shuts down fuel distribution for the entire East Coast. Gas stations run dry. Airlines cancel flights. The attack came from a criminal group, officially. But the code, the timing, the sophistication, state-sponsored probing disguised as crime. SolarWinds, December 2020. Russian intelligence penetrates 18,000 networks through a software update. They sit inside critical systems for 9 months undetected. Power grids, water treatment, communication networks, not stealing data, preparing the battlefield. JBS Foods, summer 2021. Largest meat supplier in North America hit with ransomware. Production stops. Prices spike 20% overnight. These aren't isolated incidents. They're reconnaissance. Testing response times, mapping dependencies, identifying choke points. Here's the economic reality. A cruise missile costs $2 million and destroys one target. Malware costs $5,000 and can shut down infrastructure serving millions. Why would any adversary choose the expensive, obvious option when the cheap, invisible one works better? They wouldn't. So why is every government preparedness campaign still focused on nuclear war? Why does every prepper channel talk about EMP attacks and radiation? Because that threat model keeps you passive. It makes you dependent on government warnings, government shelters, government all-clear signals. A population preparing for nuclear war is a population waiting for instructions. A population preparing for infrastructure collapse is a population that might build independence. And that's the threat governments actually fear. So if the real war isn't tanks and nukes, what actually kills you? Here's the mechanism they don't advertise. Modern warfare is systems interdiction, and your body can't survive systems interdiction for 72 hours. Here's how it works. 6 critical systems keep civilization running: power, water, food distribution, communications, fuel, healthcare. They're all interdependent. They all run on SCADA systems, supervisory control and data acquisition. Industrial computers that monitor and control everything from power grids to water treatment. The problem: 80% of SCADA systems in the United States are connected to the internet. 60% are running Windows XP or older. Operating systems that haven't received security updates in over a decade. They were built in the 1970s for isolated industrial environments. Then someone connected them to the internet for convenient monitoring. Convenient for you. Also convenient for anyone who wants to shut them down remotely. Watch the cascade. Hour 0, the grid goes dark. Water treatment plants have backup generators, but municipal pressure depends on electric pumps. Those pumps stop. Hour 24. Hospitals switch to backup power. They've got fuel for maybe 48 hours if they're well stocked. Hour 48. Water stops flowing. Treatment plants can't operate. People hoard bottled water. Grocery stores empty. Hour 72. Hospital generators run dry. Fuel stations can't pump gas without electricity. Food distribution stops because refrigeration fails. Grocery stores stock 3 days of inventory, maximum. After 72 hours, shelves stay empty. Hour 96, societal breakdown. No food, no water, no medicine, no communication. The supply chain itself is a single point of failure. 90% of critical pharmaceutical ingredients come from 2 countries, China and India. 12 rail hubs handle 80% of U.S. freight traffic. Take out 3 hubs and supply chains collapse nationwide. You saw the proof in 2021. 1 container ship stuck in the Suez Canal for 6 days. 12% of global trade backed up. Shortages cascaded worldwide. That was an accident. Now imagine deliberate disruption at 6 choke points simultaneously. Here's the actual kill chain. Adversaries penetrate SCADA networks months ahead. This isn't theoretical. Ukraine's power grid, 2015. Hackers shut down 30 substations remotely. 230,000 people without power in winter. Florida water treatment plant, 2021. Attackers gained remote access and tried to poison the water supply by increasing sodium hydroxide to lethal levels. An operator caught it. Barely. The malware is already planted, sitting dormant in systems right now. When tensions escalate, the code activates. Infrastructure fails. Society collapses. Conventional forces are still loading transport planes when the war is already over. Victory without firing a shot. And here's what makes this indefensible. The infrastructure was designed this way, on purpose. This vulnerability isn't accidental. It's by design, not enemy sabotage, corporate efficiency. Between 1980 and 2005, the United States privatized critical infrastructure. Electric utilities, water systems, telecommunications, all shifted from public to private control. The promise was efficiency through competition. The reality was different. Private corporations have one mandate: maximize profit, minimize capital expenditure. Infrastructure maintenance is expensive. Security upgrades are expensive. Redundancy is expensive. Shareholders care about quarterly earnings, not resilience. So here's what happened. Deferred maintenance became standard. SCADA systems stayed on outdated software because upgrades cost money. Networks became interconnected because it's cheaper than isolated, redundant systems. Air gaps were eliminated for convenient remote monitoring. You got efficiency. You also got vulnerability. Texas power grid, 1999. Texas deregulated electricity. Utilities became private companies competing for profit. They cut costs everywhere. Winterization upgrades to protect against extreme cold. Too expensive. Redundant capacity for demand spikes. Unnecessary overhead. February 2021. Winter storm hits. Grid collapses. 246 people die. 4.5 million without power, some for 5 days in sub-freezing temperatures. The infrastructure failed exactly how engineers warned for 20 years. Companies ignored warnings because fixing it would hurt quarterly earnings. Here's their calculation. Cost of security upgrades versus probability of failure times cost of failure. As long as the first number is higher, they don't fix it. They're betting on your life with actuarial tables. The numbers prove it. Average U.S. utility spends 0.2% of revenue on cybersecurity. Financial sector spends 10%. Why? When banks get hacked, rich people lose money. When power grids get hacked, poor people freeze. Different risk calculus. The Department of Homeland Security has published reports on infrastructure vulnerabilities since 2008. Documented warnings about SCADA penetrations, foreign adversaries mapping critical systems, cascading failure scenarios. Those reports went to Congress, utility executives, regulatory agencies. Nothing changed. Because fixing it costs billions and generates no political capital. You can't build defense contracts around hardening water treatment plants. You can't launch surveillance programs to protect power grids. Those threats don't benefit campaign donors. Instead, government focuses attention on threats that justify spending. Terrorism justifies TSA, DHS, surveillance expansion. Nuclear threats justify missile defense, modernized arsenals. Conventional invasion justifies carriers, jets, standing armies. Infrastructure vulnerability justifies nothing except expensive upgrades to systems corporations own and don't want to pay for. Pattern recognition. The threats you hear about serve someone's profit. The threats requiring corporate accountability get buried. So what does real preparation look like when the threat isn't bombs? It's systems failure? There are 3 technologies you need. Real preparation isn't about bunkers. It's about redundancy. 3 systems that outlast infrastructure collapse. Start with power. Solar and wind sound independent. They're not. Solar needs battery storage. Batteries degrade. Lithium dies in 10 years. Lead acid in 5. You're trading one dependency for another that expires faster. Here's what works. Microhydro generation. Small stream or pipe with 10-foot elevation, drop generates 100 to 500 watts continuous. Enough for critical loads. LED lighting, communication, a refrigerator. Runs 24/7, 365 days a year. No batteries required. Pair it with gravity battery, mechanical energy storage. Excess generation lifts heavy mass. When you need power, you lower it. Falling weight drives generator, simple physics. 1,000 kilograms lifted 10 meters stores 27 watt-hours. Enough for overnight lighting and charging. No lithium degradation. No moving parts. Lifespan measured in decades. Build it for $2,000. Compare that to $15,000 solar array with battery bank that dies in 10 years. This technology is over a century old. Mills used it. Early hydroelectric plants ran on this principle. But there's no recurring revenue. Build it once, works forever. No replacement batteries, no maintenance contracts, not illegal, just not marketed. Water. Municipal water stops within 48 hours of grid failure. Wells need electric pumps. Stored water expires or runs out. Solution. Atmospheric water generation. Extract moisture from air using thermoelectric cooling. Condense humidity to liquid water. Moderate climate. 500-watt unit produces 5 to 10 gallons daily. Enough for drinking, cooking, hygiene. Power requirement matches microhydro output exactly. Pair it with biosand filtration. Layers of sand, gravel, biological layer. Removes 98% of pathogens. No chemicals, no cartridges, no replacement filters. Biological layer is living organisms consuming contaminants. Maintains itself. Lifespan. Decades. Same biosand filters installed in developing countries 30 years ago still work. Build one for $50. Compare that to bottled water expiring in 2 years, or $2,000 filtration system with $40 cartridges every 6 months. Atmospheric water generators cost $500. Used in humanitarian aid for decades, not sold to American consumers. Why? Solving your water problem permanently means you stop buying filters, stop buying bottled water, stop being a recurring customer. The technology exists. The science is proven. It's just not profitable to sell you independence. But there's a third system. And this one, they really don't want you to have. Because it makes you ungovernable. Power and water keep you alive. Information keeps you organized. And an organized population is the only thing governments fear. Cell towers fail within hours of grid collapse. Backup power lasts 4 to 8 hours. After that, your phone is a brick. Traditional radios are point-to-point, unencrypted, easily triangulated. The solution: LoRa mesh networks. Long-range protocol. Each device is transmitter, receiver, and repeater. No central infrastructure. Messages hop device to device automatically. You're 15 miles away through hilly terrain. Direct line of sight impossible. Traditional radio fails. LoRa mesh hops to your neighbor's roof, then hilltop, then river, then you. If one node goes offline, network heals itself. Finds another route. More devices make the network stronger. Anti-fragile. You can't kill it because there is no central infrastructure. Every node is the infrastructure. Range. Single device reaches 3 to 10 miles. Urban mesh covers 50 miles. Hilltop installations reach 200 miles. Power. 20 to 100 milliwatts transmission. Runs weeks on single battery, indefinitely with small solar panel. Encryption. AES 256 by default. Unbreakable without keys. No metadata leaked, no triangulation. You're invisible unless someone has your channel and key. Cost: $30 to $70 per device. Compare that to $500 smartphone with $50 monthly subscription and infrastructure that shuts down remotely. This was used in Hong Kong protests, 2019 to 2020. Protesters coordinated while government shut down cell networks. Ukraine, 2022. Resistance communicated when Russians disabled infrastructure. Iran, 2023. Dissidents organized while regime blocked internet. It works. It's proven. It's cheap. Why isn't it mainstream? Why no advertising? Why isn't Verizon selling mesh phones? Because decentralized communication is a nightmare for centralized control. Telecom companies make money owning infrastructure and renting access, monthly fees, service contracts, data caps. Mesh networks collapse that business model. Governments don't want networks they can't shut down, can't censor, can't tap. A population coordinating without permission is a population organizing resistance. Hardware exists. Software is open source. Protocol is documented. No marketing budget because no recurring revenue. Exists in hobbyist communities and activist networks. Exactly where it's most dangerous. Now let's talk about why you've never heard of any of this. The pattern that keeps you dependent. 3 technologies: power, water, communication. All proven, all suppressed. What's the pattern? The modern economy isn't built on solving problems. It's built on managing them. Subscription model. Netflix, Adobe, cloud storage. You never own. Always rent. Applied to survival, same principle. The emergency preparedness industry is worth $20 billion annually. What does it sell you? Freeze-dried food with 5-year shelf life. Rebuy in 5 years. Lithium battery banks with 10-year lifespan. Rebuy in 10 years. Water filters with 6-month cartridges. Rebuy every 6 months. Everything has an expiration date built in. Not because it has to. Because a customer who solves their problem permanently is a customer you lose forever. Microhydro lasts 30 years minimum. No repeat purchase. Biosand filter lasts decades. No cartridge sales. LoRa mesh has no subscription, no monthly revenue. A solved problem is lost revenue. Now look at what gets marketed. Mainstream preparedness focuses on 72-hour kits, go bags, nuclear scenarios. Never discusses long-term infrastructure independence, decentralized systems, permanent solutions. YouTube prep channels are sponsored by freeze-dried food companies, tactical gear brands, battery manufacturers. They show you threats that make you buy their sponsors' products. Government preparedness campaigns focus on nuclear attack, terrorism, natural disasters. Never mentions infrastructure vulnerability, corporate negligence, systemic dependence. This isn't conspiracy. It's aligned incentives. Companies profit from repeat customers. Governments need dependent populations. Independent citizens are ungovernable citizens. They don't ban the knowledge, they just bury it under noise. 1,000 products screaming for your attention, all designed to need replacing. And somewhere in the silence between the ads, the solutions that actually work permanently sit waiting for someone to look. So here's what it really means to prepare for World War III. You're not preparing for war. You're preparing for independence. World War III isn't about territory. It's about control. And control requires dependence. Traditional war captures territory, controls resources, occupies land. Modern war exploits existing dependencies. Don't invade. Just turn off the systems they already depend on. You don't need to defeat their military. You just need to collapse their society. Society collapses when power stops, water stops, food distribution stops, communication stops. This only works if the population is dependent on centralized systems. If the population is decentralized and independent, there's nothing to turn off. Vietnam, Afghanistan, guerrilla warfare principle. You can't defeat what you can't cut off from resources. Modern application. You can't collapse what isn't dependent on your infrastructure. Real preparation isn't stockpiling. It's decentralizing. Grid-independent power makes you immune to infrastructure attacks. Water independence makes you immune to supply disruption. Mesh communication, food production, not storage, makes you immune to supply chain collapse. This isn't prepping. It's resilience engineering. Side effect. You're also immune to corporate price gouging, government restrictions, economic collapse. Independence from one threat is independence from all threats. You don't prepare for World War III. You prepare to not need the system they're going to weaponize. Here's why governments don't want this knowledge mainstream. A dependent population is a controllable population. You can coerce them through system shutdowns. You can threaten them with infrastructure failure. You can force compliance by controlling access to necessities. An independent population cannot be coerced. Can't threaten someone with power cuts if they generate their own. Can't silence coordination if they control their own network. Can't starve compliance if they produce their own food. Independence is the only real threat to systemic control. Here's the pattern that ties everything together, and why you need to share this. Every threat they advertise makes you more dependent. Look at the pattern across every mainstream narrative. Nuclear war, the solution they sell you. Buy iodide tablets, radiation meters, fallout shelters. Depend on government all-clear signals, official evacuation routes, centralized emergency response. Terrorism. Accept surveillance, checkpoints, restricted movement. Depend on security apparatus you don't control. Pandemic. Depend on pharmaceutical supply chains, government lockdown guidance, corporate vaccine distribution. Climate change. Depend on corporate renewable energy grids, government carbon regulation, approved green technology. Economic collapse. Depend on gold dealers, financial advisors, banks to protect your wealth. See the pattern. Every threat is sold with a solution that increases your dependence on a system someone else controls. The real solutions, the ones that create actual independence, are never advertised. Not because they don't work, because they work too well. A population that solves its own problems doesn't need to be governed. 3 technologies: microhydropower, atmospheric water generation, mesh communication networks. None are illegal. All are available. Most are affordable. Build one, you've reduced dependence. Build all 3, you've become ungovernable. More important, share this knowledge. Suppression only works through silence. Every person who learns this makes the suppression weaker. Every community that implements this becomes proof of concept. They can bury one solution. They can't bury 1,000. What other threat narratives follow this pattern? What other solutions have been buried? Drop it in comments. The more we name it, the less it works. World War III isn't about bombs, it's about dependence. And the most powerful weapon isn't technology. It's knowledge that makes you ungovernable. Physics doesn't take sides. But it does take notes.